Hello, I am Paul Warlowski and one of the Try Faster coaches for this breakthrough running program. I'm also a certified yoga instructor, and what we'll do today is a very short basic yoga routine that you can do after every workout, whether you're in the gym doing strength training, whether you're running, doing other cross training. It's just a simple movement to practice a bit of your breathing, to restore some of your breath work, but also to work some opening of your hips, your shoulders, and some spine twisting. So let's get started. And we'll come into a basic child's pose. And in the child's pose, with your knees on the outside of a mat or a carpet, so your knees are basically wide and your toes are together, sink your hips back so that your butt is getting closer to your heels. And then once you feel pretty secure in this spot, you can start to increase or move up your hands. You've got some options here. You can have your elbows on the mat, you can have your arms extended, or you can have a block and put your forehead on the block. So you have some options in your movement too. But as what we will do in our movement is, as you inhale, come up and relax the pose a little bit. And as you exhale, try to sink a little more deeply into the pose. So I'm working a little bit on my shoulders, opening up my shoulders. My dog just saw another dog, so you may hear some barking in the background. And it's like a national emergency whenever she sees another dog. And my daughter, thankfully, is now talking to the dog, so there's more silence. And so I'm continuing to inhale and exhale through my nose and opening up my lower back and my shoulders back and forth. I'll bring my hands forward and we'll come into a downward dog and bring your hips up. And in downward dog, there's a lot of potential movement here. The first thing I'll do is bicycle my feet out, pushing my heel individually down towards the ground. The goal of a downward dog is that you have a relatively straight line from your hips to your heels, which is fairly okay to do, but then from your hips to your hands, which is much harder for older folks like me and people who have had some shoulder challenges. Same thing, inhale and release a little bit, exhale, try to sink down. Good, and we'll inhale. And then we'll bring a leg forward, so we'll come into a low lunge. All right, and so in this low lunge, you can start with your hands on your knees, and I'll kind of flip around a little bit. And we'll bring our hips forward to that point where your hip flexors are starting to get a little tight. And I come back, exhale. So you don't ever want to push any of this motion and these movements. Just, you'll feel things open and relax. If you start feeling like you've got a pretty good stability base here in terms of balance, you can start bringing your arms up. You can bring your hands together if you want. Otherwise, just create a little bit more of a back bend. Good, and then slowly bring your arms down. And you can extend this if you want to, as you want to make this a longer, whatever is working for you. So this time, bring your left hand down to the mat. We're gonna just do a lizard twist. And it'll be our a spinal twist, but we'll do another one later. So I'm coming a little more forward with my hips. Left hand's on the mat, my right hand's on my knee. I'll inhale and then start to bring my right hand up into the air. So there's a few things going on, but your goal here is to try to be trying to stack your shoulders so that your right shoulder is on top of your left shoulder. And clearly, most of us can't do that. But that's where you're going. So every exhale, all you're trying to do is take your shoulder and put it on top of your other shoulder, your right shoulder, and move it backwards. I'm also pushing down with my right foot into the mat, trying to keep my right knee from flailing out. And keep breathing, inhale and releasing, exhale and rotating. All right, then bring your right hand down, and we'll try to have both hands inside of your foot. And if this isn't working for you, you can have your hands on a block, so you can be on your fingers. Essentially what this is it's just coming at the hip flexor opening in a slightly different way. And again, don't go to pain. Just go to where it naturally stops. Exhale, inhale, bring your hips back. And then come forward. Good. Hands down on the mat, bring your right foot back and push yourself back into a downward dog. And again, I keep this short, this routine, so that it's more likely that I'll actually do it after a workout. Otherwise, it's easy to ignore. I also will do this in the evening when I'm, done with dinner and work, watching TV or a movie or whatever we're doing. All right, and then let's inhale and exhale our left foot forward and drop your right knee into the lunge and bring your hands up to your knee. All right, we'll do the same thing. Keep your torso upright. Rotate your hips forward. Inhale back. Exhale forward. Good, now bring your right hand down to the mat. Left hand is on your left knee. Inhale, and now bring your left hand up into the air. And again, you're trying to stack now your left shoulder on top of your right shoulder. So I'm doing each pose for 4 to 6 breaths. All right, and then we'll bring left hand down. Both hands are inside of my knee. And we'll do the same thing with the hip flexor coming forward on the exhale. And exhale. So the reason we focus mostly on hip flexors is because that is what gets most tight on runners. We end up, because we lift the leg forward, just like in cycling, you're lifting your leg. The hip flexor, in essence, shortens and gets tighter. You also feel a little bit of tugging going on in your left hamstring. All right, hands in front, and let's push back to a downward dog. And so we could spend a lot of time working on our hamstrings, but for most of us, the tight and challenging part are actually our hip flexors. And if we add sitting to that mix, it becomes much more pronounced that we have challenges with hip flexors that are tight. All right, so we're going to do this a couple different ways. If you choose, you can simply, if moving into a plank is a challenge, you can simply drop your knees here, or you can move into a plank, then drop your knees, and come all the way down into a Sphinx pose. And again, we are trying to counteract leaning forward by opening up our front body and lengthening our spine. So in a Sphinx, you're almost as if you're using your elbows to lengthen your spine as long as you can on the exhale. And then exhale. All right, we'll do one more breath. All right, hands underneath your shoulders, push back into a downward dog again. And we'll do that same thing in a moment. But this time come into a cobra. So if you have any kind of back issues or shoulder issues and you want to go back into a Sphinx, please do so. All right, inhale and exhale into a plank. And now just drop your knees so that your shoulders are over your wrists. You're on top of your feet. And your inhale now is relaxing your hips. And exhale, trying to lengthen your spine and let your hips fall to the ground. Trying to bring my shoulder blades together. All right, and push back into it. Downward dog again, and then bring your knees forward. And we're gonna come back onto our back for our final pose. And it's going to be a spinal twist with a couple of variations as we come down. All right, so have your knees up into the air, and then we're gonna roll over onto our right side. Not to smush the microphone. And on your right side, come into a series of 90-degree angles so that your left knee is on top of your right knee. Take your right hand and put it on top of that knee. And then we're simply going to do some book openers. We're going to reach with our left hand and reach around behind us as we exhale. That's it. Your knees stay on the ground. And then, with our last one here, what I would like you to do is now take your left hand and bring your right ankle behind you, so that your left knee now comes on the ground and you're opening up your hip flexor by pulling your ankle towards your glutes. Then you'll inhale and release, and exhale. So this is kind of a yoga variation of the runner's lunge. Good. Now let's come over to the other side. I'm gonna flip over so you can continue to see what we're doing here. So now roll on to your left side. Same thing. 90-degree angles. Now your left hand goes on top of your right thigh or your right knee. Reach forward with your right hand. Inhale, and then exhale as you look over your right shoulder. Now, you have to be a little careful. Like what I just did is, it feels like you're ready to have some snap, crackles, and pops in your spine. And you just gotta make sure that you're not pushing it too much like I just did. Just let gravity do the work. But sometimes it just feels like you got just that little thing and it's like gonna release and, yeah, but don't do that. Let your chiropractor do that. Or your friendly physical therapist. Good. All right, and now bring your right hand, grab onto your left knee. Same thing. Pull your left heel towards your glute. Release on the inhale, exhale. One more time. All right, so that's it. Again, my name is Paul Werlowski, and I also, whoa, there goes my microphone. Do yoga classes Wednesdays and Fridays at my studio over in Hales Corners. If you would like to work on some more yoga, I have some other videos that I'm happy to share with you. And if you have questions, you can reach me at paulw@simpleendurancecoaching.com or reach me through Lauren with TriFaster, and I'll be happy to help you with any kind of movement issues or challenges that you might have. All right, thanks. Have a great run, and we'll talk to you soon.